is the Yellow Springs Board of Education, April 12th, 2018 meeting. The board was in executive session previously. I'd like to welcome everybody here and acknowledge that the purpose of the meeting is to conduct the business of the board. We're interested in hearing from people, and we have time set aside for community comments so that we may do our work productively and effectively. Public comments, statements, and concerns are welcome during that portion of community comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. No personal employee can be named because employees of the district are executive session material. If you would like to come before the board around a personnel issue, you may request that for a future date. Also, the board is legally obligated to protect student confidentiality and information and privacy by state and federal law. So you may not expose any child, any student regarding FERPA and the state revised code. So if you're wanting to make comments, you need to understand that the board needs to follow those laws. Okay, we are moving into the approval of the minutes of March 8th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll send it to you. Okay.
Any issues regarding those minutes? No?
Nope.
Alrighty. Roll call.
Sean,
Here.
Sylvia,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Rita.
Yes. How much you know which Steve?
We just know.
There.
Yeah. It's like the mind meld kind of thing. We just know.
Okay, communications. We have communications. A letter from Tim Pryor dated March 14, 2018. We have a letter from Jeff Collins dated March 18, 2018. We have a letter from Mitch Larson dated March 27, 2018. And we have a letter from John Day dated April 5th, 2018. All right, we are in community comments. I'd like to recognize any members of the audience who would wish to address the board. And if you'd like to address the board, please step up to the microphone if you like. And identify yourself, please. And Steve will give you a kind of a heads up at
At 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Okay, but it's 3 minutes that you got.
Brevity is the soul of wit. I understand this meeting will primarily concern the new campus.
Who are you?
Oh, right. Hello, my name is Matt Raska. I actually live next to the school here. And I've lived here for, I don't know, it's been a while. Anyway, I understand this meeting will primarily concern the new campus complex that is being lobbied for and that you guys want to build here. And I question and wonder why you wouldn't repair existing infrastructure and hire more teachers, but that's not really why I'm here. I've sent you an article posted by the Mockingbird paper this past Wednesday with a request for it to be added to the meeting minutes, and I believe that you've had adequate time to familiarize yourselves with it. There was a gross sexual imposition incident on September 7th, 2017 involving a student with faculty connections. Then there was another opaque incident on March 7th, and on March 15th, a very highly placed member of the Yellow Springs schools was not dismissed, but placed himself on medical leave, was that it? And told not to come back to school, to have no contact with any of the students, and also to, what was it? Turn in all of his equipment and clear out his desk. In this first incident on March 7th, why was the perpetrator not gone the first time? Why did it take 2 incidents? And in fact, I've had personal friends that have told me that these incidents have happened before and been reported, and nothing was done about it. There's no other reports that I was able to dredge up. So I certainly know of at least 2 other reports, in addition to the 2 that I've sent you, and I have also turned into Ms. Ida. Is there a shyness about litigation here? And what incidents, or how will these incidents be prevented in the future? Knowing that all of your staff, as educators, are mandatory reporters, any moral turpitude on the case of an administrator or faculty should be an automatically dismissible charge written into their contracts. The whole situation resoundingly resembles when Officer Hawley, in charge of the New Year's Eve ball drop, charged police cruisers into the crowd, left on medical leave, and then resigned without any charges whatsoever. Whereas a normal person not in a position of authority would have been almost certainly imprisoned immediately. I suspect there are a number of people here who are also interested in these questions, and we appreciate your clarification.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Jake.
Matt sent me all the police reports.
Identify, please.
My name is Mike Naziri. Matt sent me all of the police reports related to, our arrests and police responding to the school. And I don't really have any questions about that. I know a lot about the situation that the police reports confirm from having 4 kids in the school and 2 over at the high school. My question is, one of the police reports was about an individual named, can I say? I can't say kid's name. Okay. An individual who is a high school student who had just turned 18. He assaulted a notorious bully who I personally had reported no less than half a dozen times over the years. And I saw very, very, very little action taken to prevent future bullying. Finally, this bully last year bullied my second oldest son. He had been bullying my oldest. And I said, until he does something, like takes a swing at you, you can't take a swing at him. And he threatened, his MO was threatening students with violence. He threatened my now freshman son. And my eldest son, who's a senior, snapped and assaulted him. He wasn't 18 like this other individual, so he doesn't have a police record from it. But now this individual with a baby on the way, who finally, after other students being threatened by the same problematic individual, snapped also. Now he's facing being locked up in a cage. He has a baby on the way. And I'm just wondering why this seems to be the approach. I'm not, I understand that there are procedures and you can't just have students going around beating people up. But at the same time, when you have, in this case, a persistent student who, since my senior son was in 6th grade, was being bullied every year by this kid, and now he's being painted as the victim because another student who I've had the pleasure of chaperoning on trips, who's a wonderful student and interacts with everyone very kindly. I don't know what personal issues he may or may not have, but I never saw him act violently or threaten anybody, in spite of the fact that he looks very old. I'm just, it's kind of, it struck me the wrong way to see this kid who literally everybody knows is a bully, being painted as a victim, and the kid who stood up to the bully being charged, just like my son was suspended for standing up to the same bully.
Anybody else? No, sorry, 3 minutes.
But I'm on a totally different topic. That's like another 3 minutes.
That's it.
Anyone else? Hello, my name is Eli Hurwitz. I'm here representing the Yellow Springs Education Association. We represent 52 teachers. I'm here today to speak specifically about an experience I had with a group of students, and we're going to speak about this more later. But I got to see about 36 of our students completely outside of the school environment, and I wanted to compliment our teachers on helping our students grow into students who could speak their mind when it was needed. We were in a foreign country, we were in a completely, sometimes completely unique situations, and I had the opportunity to watch students stand up for each other, stand up for themselves, and to say things that I didn't know that they had it within themselves to say. And while I'm here in the role of the union president, I would like to thank our teachers for having a role in teaching our students to have a voice. So, thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to schools in action. We're going to hear from
Yeah.
I guess Eli's up again.
Do you want to control it?
Not really, I wanted it that way. Can I break into it for a second?
Well, I will start.
Yes,
I'm Elizabeth Simon, and I was one of the group leaders. We really want to share with you kind of the experience that we had and kind of just sum up what we did here. Our students are going to be presenting themselves at a community presentation, and so we didn't ask them to come tonight. So we just kind of wanted to share with the board and the community what they did, kind of our takeaways, and what we would like to see in the future. So these are just some images from our experience that are just going to sort of play in the background while we talk. First, a little background. We started working with the organization EF, which stands for Education First, like 4 years ago when we began planning our first trip, which was an educational trip to Europe. And students were doing research and they were learning some independent research things for credit. And this trip, we decided to go a different direction. We did a service learning trip. Students traveled to Peru for 9 days, 10 days?
9 days.
Felt like a lifetime. They traveled to Peru. We had a pretty amazing adventure, and we did 2 really intensive days of service while we were there. So I'm going to turn it over to Eli to talk about our itinerary a little bit.
So we left from Dayton and flew into Lima. We flew from Lima to, we spent a day in Lima. Spent the night there. We got in really late, spent the night in Lima, and the day in Lima. It was phenomenal. And then, I'll come back to that in a second, but we flew from Lima to Cusco. We caught a bus from the Cusco airport into Cusco to have lunch and to go really slow. And then we took another long bus ride to Ollantaytambo, where we got the opportunity to work with an artist who has provided jobs for the local community, and Pablo Seminario, and we worked and made tiles. Then we, after that, we went, the next day we hopped on the train early in the morning and went to Aguas Calientes and caught a bus up to Machu Picchu, which was a phenomenal experience. Then we stayed in Aguas Calientes that evening, kind of got to take students out into the community. They experienced kiwi for the evening, which is it's guinea pig. And then the next day we caught the train back into Ollantaytambo. We then got to go immediately to kind of the service site, which was in a place called Juliac, and this will continue to repeat. Juliac is where we worked, was right around 13,000 feet. We met the women who we were working to build the facility for, and we met their families. We played with their kids, they fed us lunch, and then we went and worked with their families on this facility. We came back the next morning, continued working on the facility, and then kind of the trip after the service was we went back to Ollantaytambo and back to Cusco. We went to see Sacsayhuaman and the Pisac Market, and then we flew to Lima, went to the ocean, and here we are, ready to go back.
Wow.
So that's what we did, but it's not what we learned. So I want to really emphasize like the learning that took place here. Our guides were really amazing people who really were excellent role models for our kids, and they gave us a lot of Inca wisdom. And one of the ideas that they really embedded our kids was the idea of sacred reciprocity, or Aini, which is the idea that you give your best and you get your best from other people. And they sort of like laid this foundation when we were hiking around Machu Picchu and kind of learning about the Incans and the culture that had come long before us. And the kids, I think, really connected to the space and the place and became interested in a different way. They were already interested, but became interested in a different way. Really set the tone for the service that we were about to do. And when he says facility, what he means is like a building that was built without any sort of machines. We had shovels, pickaxes, and buckets. The foundation walls were built from rocks that we pulled out of the river, and cement that we mixed from water in the river, and adobe bricks that we made by like sifting dirt. So it was, in our eyes at first, perhaps a place that had nothing. They didn't have running water or electricity, but they had everything. They had community connections, they had each other, and we did not do work for them, we did work with them. So we worked shoulder to shoulder with the people of the community. And I think we gained so much. We're not like, well, Eli maybe is, but Ms. Lohmeyer and I were like, I'm not crying, you're crying, you know. So we really saw that INE idea from our kids. So kids who we really saw a different side of, who worked tirelessly for hours and hours at high altitude with sunburn, moving heavy things for a really long time, and showing great tenderness with children who didn't speak the same language as. We learned, so can you let the play button hand? We learned so much from the people of Wiyok. We learned how to say my name is in Quechua, and coming off of this experience, we talked a lot about the impact of service learning with kids. And I've chaperoned DC trips, I've done the European trip. Really none of them, nothing that I've done has compared to this type of experience for kids. The way that I saw them grow, the capacity for empathy that I saw in them by the end of the trip that I didn't imagine possible at the beginning of the trip. The kindness that they showed toward one another, towards strangers, was really something that impressed me. So I really want to emphasize that some sort of service learning or sustainable service learning program, beyond just like Eli and I saying like, hey kids, let's sign up for our next destination, would so dramatically benefit our students.
So many of the things we learned there had a lasting impression, I think, on our kids so far. They're still giving us the Lama sign in the hallways, and ideas that stood out. We started in Lima going to the Larco Herrera Museum, which is kind of a look at the cultures that were in South America before Columbus hit the land, and all of the cultures thousands of years into the past, and how they built upon each other and the languages that they used. We learned a fair amount of Quechua, not really a fair amount, but we learned a few words, but they taught us stuff about their culture. I'm not going to teach you the words for the 3 Incan laws of life, which were work, love, and learn, but that came across in almost everything that we did. And I think that if we can embed the kind of service that we did while we were there in any of the service we do as teachers with our students from here on out, we're doing the greatest service for our children, to teach them to work side by side with the families that we're helping, as opposed to just working in front of somebody. It was truly amazing. I'm going to leave with one thing that...
We're supposed to wrap it up with any questions.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Ben, questions? I'll wrap it up later.
Can I say one quick thing? This is you all remember when we first started this work years ago, this was kind of a vision of ours, and we talked to the board about it, but Elizabeth was definitely on the very ground floor of that conversation when we first started talking about the idea. She thought it was cool, and then immediately after Eli, I think, came into the mix too. But one thing we talked about, if you remember, was this idea of global trips where kids were doing some kind of a service learning trip specifically, the value of that for our students. And we didn't want to make it the first one. Elizabeth didn't feel like that was a good idea for the first trip because we really wanted to make sure that we got our bearings, we figured it out, we figured Europe was a safer bet, for a first trip. And certainly it was a great success. I think they learned a lot from it, we learned a lot from it, but then this was the one. We were gonna really go for what we had wanted to go for all along, and it was so cool to see the vision we all kind of wanted to happen, actually happen. And I want to give the kids a lot of credit for what they did, but I definitely want to give our teachers a ton of credit. What people don't know that are watching, or the board maybe even necessarily, is that for 2 years, Elizabeth and Eli have been driving this trip, putting tons of extra hours in on a regular basis to be able to get our kids ready, work with parents, doing all kinds of work around this beyond what we could imagine for our kids. And it's been amazing. And I've heard parents repeatedly tell me that they're sending kids on the trip because of these particular chaperones leading it. And that's why they went on it, because they trusted you all and felt like you were incredible educators, great examples of human beings for the kids. And I think that's super valuable. You would never say that obviously yourself, so I wanted to make sure I pointed that out publicly. And it's not just them, you know, the educators they chose then to add on to the trip, like Jody. I mean, there's a ton of them, you know, and Jody's been doing
Like the
several
one next
trips.
to you?
Yeah.
Matt Housh, the administrator who came on late. But yeah, and Matt had a great experience too. And even though he was sick most of the time.
Not most of the time, just for a day or so.
36 hours.
I kept hearing about how sick Matt was the whole trip.
He'll get
Come
to
on.
use that experience next
Yeah.
weekend.
But bottom line, it was awesome, and I'm so glad this trip was such a great success, and almost 20% of our high school kids went. That's amazing. So, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
So I want to really just acknowledge all of the teachers who went, because
Yeah,
it wasn't just
me too.
us, you know, Matt Houch, Kate Blomeyer, Christopher Sutton, and Jody Chick. Everybody helped, and you know, we did the lion's share of the planning and the preparation, but when you're on the trip, I mean, it is like we've got kids dropping like flies and you know, getting sick and needing help and needing encouragement and needing hugs, and you know, everybody was like family. So it was certainly not just us, for sure.
The catch-all word for family is IU. Just so you know.
We're still using it. Other questions?
I got my own slideshow of the trip.
We would like to see it.
Yes, and yeah, thank you very much.
I'll just follow up with the parent thing. I had a child go 2 years ago on the first trip, and then a child go this year, and a lot of it for us was which teachers were taking them. Oh, definitely. So, thank you.
It was our pleasure. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. You're developing a global mindset in these kids and these teachers. And thank you for being fearless and taking it on. And I guess if you think about what's next, what 3 places would you pick?
Oh, we can't say it.
Oh, I'd say,
We can say
we'd
that.
probably go
We
to Peru, and then maybe Peru.
I'll go to Peru. Yeah. I'll go to Peru.
Oh.
Peru.
More of
Yeah.
a deeper dive into one.
It was amazing.
It was the
I
guinea
don't
pig,
think you
right?
can-
You just can't come up with a guinea pig.
Can't.
All the guinea pig.
So the Incans, I went with a researcher's mindset, thinking of all the different ways that these amazing structures could have been built, and looked into all the ancient alien ideas. And while we were there, it was a beautiful way of seeing a country, but also hearing people talk about how time works completely different than we think of time. While doing our service, one of the biggest accomplishments that the kids felt in one group was taking out a giant boulder. But this giant boulder couldn't be taken out with a chain. Like, oh, it'd be so great to have a chain and pull that chain out. Or to have a giant metal pry bar to get that boulder out. Instead, it was, well, the sledgehammer just broke, let's use the handle. Let's dig out around it even more. And learning the power of many hands make a job easier was amazing for the kids, but also adds to that idea that the Incans didn't have and the people before the Incans didn't have the same idea about time that we do. And so these massive structures, if they moved a boulder 100 feet in a year, that was a great 100 feet. And the more we incrementally move forward towards whatever our goals are, that's a lesson learned wherever we go next. The Quechua word for I'll see you later is Tupacanachi's comment. And I really love this, and all the kids can say it. It means I'll see you later, but it also means whether I'll see you later, whether it's in person, or whether it's in my dreams, or just if I'm thinking about you. So it's kind of the whole person, the whole idea. So
There's no good.
there's no goodbye.
I just wonder what kind of feedback you got from people in the country and your tour guides and so forth.
So-
Just curious if there was any, should I say this?
Yeah.
They said we started out below average, but we showed the most growth.
I did not say that.
They said exactly what they said.
I didn't hear that.
You know, so we had a really big group and we had a really broad range of kids. And, you know, the first day it was like, you know, we had some growing to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, by the end it was like, we moved above. So, yeah, I thought it was okay to say.
Our tour director told me that we were the closest to family he's ever had as a group.
Because he had to care for so many of our children. When they were ELF, Ruby, and grandmother remedies that we now know for things. But so I want to just, last thing, throw in the kids are going to be sharing with the community, and we
Yeah.
mistakenly planned that for next week at the end of testing, so we have had no A-Lab meetings to meet with them and actually go through all their photos and plan that, so we're rescheduling it. It's not next Wednesday, but please look for that if you're interested, because they would love to share with someone besides their parents. And we would love to give them the opportunity to have more than, 5 now, 10, we just keep talking.
Let me repeat that in a
minutes.
way that the news can hear, and it'll be said on YouTube. The Global Connections community event, which was scheduled for the 18th, has been canceled because
Rescheduled.
It's been rescheduled. And the date is still to be determined, and will be then sent to the paper and announced again.
So, sorry, we messed up.
Testing.
Testing.
Lame testing.
We failed to schedule, but the kids have lots to say, so I think we're done.
Yes.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Sorry we
Beautiful,
took twice as
beautiful
long as
scarf.
Oh, thank you, I was modeling my.
Ruby?
So the students were, they were able to buy items,
You
woven
didn't talk
items
about
directly
it.
from the women who wove. I didn't talk about Kawamaki or
Oh,
but I think I'm out of time now. Anyway, we were able to buy things directly from the people who wove them in the community where we were working. It was great. So, it was great.
Can I add one more thing, Megan? So I just wanted to say for folks watching at home, one of the things that's really important that I want to say before it gets too far away from this date is the kids had an amazing experience, and although 20% of the kids were able to go, there were a lot of kids who were not able to go because they can't afford a trip like this. And so there's a fundraising plan that starts very early on, and the kids do all this work to be able to raise the money. But still, a lot of our kids can't have this amazing opportunity that all these kids who went on this trip had. Our goal, what we want, is we want our kids to graduate the global change leaders of the future. And if we want our kids to do that, then we need to give them a global experience. And so I'm shouting out to the community and compelling the community to take a stand right now and support us in our mission of making our students, helping our students graduate the global change leaders of the future by sponsoring students for future tours. It costs, what would this one cost?
$3,500.
$3,500. Now it'll probably go up or over time, but if you can give money to support kids along those lines, we'd love to see that. I think we're going to set up a sub-fund in the Yellow Springs Endowment Fund at the Community Foundation, specifically Yellow Springs Schools Fund, actually at the foundation. And if you feel like giving a lot and really making a great contribution, as this really moves you, we think that, if my calculations are right, you can give close to $100,000 as a gift for an endowment that could be a seat that permanently funds 2 kids going every 2 years on a trip. And it could do it in perpetuity. And so those kids could be an endowed trip based in your name or any name you want to put it in for just a $100,000 donation and have a powerful, lasting impact on kids' lives forever. Yes, I just said just $100,000. But for some people, it is just a $100,000 donation. And for others, it's a major lift, obviously. But if you are one of those people that can do that, we want to make sure we invite you to do that now. Because I think it would make a difference, a huge difference in the lives of our kids now and well in the future.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right. We are moving into administrative reports. Can we go, Matt?
Sure.
So, in creating the report this month, a lot of what I was sharing are things that have already happened, but they're important to point out and kind of discuss it in more detail. So on March 14th, we had a student-led, organized walkout that also, teachers participated in and I participated in. We actually had some community members that were here as well. And I just wanted to, congratulate and kind of honor the kids for standing up and really caring about safe schools and wanting to make a statement. It was a very respectful piece where they read bios of each of the victims at Parkland, and it was quiet. It was a very cold day. It was snowing. It was just pretty powerful walkout event. So. And then related to that, Justin Hamilton, who's actually featured in that picture up there, he's got the striped shirt on, he also went to the March on Washington with his dad, and he ended up being interviewed there, and he talked about, how, and he was one of the leaders who really, it started at Boys Night Out, he really came on strong with like his passion and his concern about this issue. So he helped with our walkout, and then he went to the March on Washington and ended up being interviewed by someone from the Washington Post, and he had a nice little article where he got to talk a little bit and even promote our schools and our town. So just I think it was really important, and it was a great thing that brought our kids together, and it was nice that Justin got to share his voice as a 5th grader. So I was really proud of that. And then just kind of the other big thing that happened recently was this Peru trip, and I just can't say how incredible it was to be able to grow closer to the other teachers that went, and the kids, who a lot of them I haven't seen since they were here at Mills Lawn, or I had never had a relationship with them because they didn't go to school here. It's just really great to get to know them and learn more about how high schoolers think and interact with them and experience all those things. And as they said, everyone really, I think, came back changed and really had a lot of personal growth. And I felt, that I was able to go there and work some things out myself and just really gain a clear perspective about, what we're doing here, why we do what we do, and just how important it is to support our students and ourselves. And, Peru is just a great place. So really appreciated the opportunity, and it was great, got to hang out with two of the board members' children too, and they both did a wonderful job, and so it was really special, so I appreciated that. And now we're getting into testing, so we're going to just leave all this inspiration behind and test for 2 or 3 weeks. So we're going to do our best to keep our kids positive and keep doing what we do. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about that or anything else. Great.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. The high school, middle school, I started off with information about Peru. It's been covered pretty extensively, so I'm going to kind of skip that to an extent. The last week, the 8th grade had our annual trip to Washington, D.C. We went and the cherry blossoms were in full bloom, and our tour guide said this is the best time to visit DC and this is the worst time to visit DC. So it was really great to get to see the cherry blossoms, but you could not move in DC. It was the traffic was unbearable, so that was really challenging for us. But beyond that, it was a wonderful experience. We had kids that were just really moved at the Holocaust Museum. Arlington National Cemetery is really impactful for some kids. We got to see like a higher-ranking officer's funeral procession move through, and I think for our kids to get to see the formality of that was really powerful. And then we went to Arena Stage, which is, I guess, the nation's first regional theater, and we saw Hold These Truths, which is like a one-man show. He was on stage for about an hour and 40 minutes, and it's about the suppression of the Japanese Americans during World War II. And for our kids, I don't think that they really understood the impact until after the show. They had a talk back with 3 members of the Japanese American Society who were like the fundraisers, and they made the big push to have a Japanese American Peace Memorial in DC. And then the single actor that did the whole show went against his agent's suggestion and came and sat out and talked with our kids. So it was really cool. One of the gentlemen in the talkback actually works at the Pentagon, so he said, when you guys come back to DC next year, hit me up, I'll get you into the Pentagon, you can see everything in there. And then we started talking about the Race and Revolution Project, and he said, when you're going to do that again, let me know. He said, I can't give you money, but I have 100 names of people that will give you money. And then the lady that actually runs the Peace Memorial now said, when you start that project again, let me know, and I can have your students' work on kind of exposed at a national level. So we made like these incredible connections. So we're looking for a change for next year to shift it from a spring trip to a September trip. So our hope is when the 7th grade goes on their Into the Wild trip, the 8th grade will be in DC. So our entire middle school will be empty. And our kids will be out at the same time, kind of having that rich experience. And we're actually going to tie the DC trip we're hoping to the Race and Revolution Project. So we're looking for a different tour company that will allow us a little bit more flexibility to see more sites with the kind of the Race and Revolution tie as opposed to just the traditional memorials. So exciting there. Mind Matters, the high school health and PE and advanced art students, they have a display on at K-12. It opened last Friday. Just some really incredible work about the mental health and mental illness, and just the art students created these big panels that are like 36-inch doors, and then the health kids did infographics with all the statistics and facts about the different aspects of mental health. So really a great display. It sounds like it was really well attended. I was in DC, so I wasn't able to attend, but it sounds like it was really well attended. And that's actually still on until April 28th, so if anybody wants to go to the K-12 gallery. And then early, we had the High School Musical. So great show. It was one of the largest casts we've had in recent years. And one thing that Lori Sparrow-Knapp has done with her middle school theater class is she's really gotten so many young kids interested in theater. So our cast, she was talking before the show how it's getting harder and harder to get these things to come together because our cast keeps getting younger and younger and bigger. So, which is actually a good problem. But a successful show. We did an online fundraiser, so we were able to buy 4 new microphones, and we had 4 gifted to us by the Community Foundation. So was exciting that we were able to continue to kind of build our theater program in that direction, and then just getting ready for the 1X in May at the Presbyterian Church here in town.
I think that makes all kinds of sense to try to do the 8th grade trip in September as a fall trip. So I really hope that works out because, yeah, the logic of it seems really clear to me.
Well, with the 7th grade, we see the bonding that happens in the class early in the year. And with the 8th grade, when that bonding happens, then they're leaving for summer. Yep. So if we can have that bonding happen early in the year and then kind of enjoy that throughout the rest of the year, I think it's really important.
Yep.
We might be at Camp Current at the same time you guys are going to. It's going to be like 6 through 8 big ghost town around here.
I actually, when the kids came back from Peru, Elizabeth Simon sent an email kind of wrapping up how amazing the Peru trip was and the idea of service learning, and my response to her was, now how do you make the 9th grade project be that? Yes. So kind of this idea of trying to get everybody to do a service learning experience, even if it's not in Peru, but the idea of doing service in some aspect. So, very cool.
All right, thanks very much. All right, moving into the treasurer's report, financial report.
I'm sure nobody wants to hear me talk now.
You're inspiring too.
Well, we have good news because our real estate taxes for the fiscal year came in 1.18% higher than the projection. This is when I wasn't sure if we hit the 20 mil floor and where we were going to be at. So I was happy with that coming in over projection. Our investment receipts, I spent some time just kind of looking at where we're at in the fiscal year and what my 5-year forecast is at the time to see, because I'll update that this month and then bring it to you in May as our required twice-a-year forecast update. But our investment receipts are they're going to be double. So I was happy about that, and that's just partially because of the rates going up. Every month I've been watching them and they've been continuing to go up. I mean, we're still 1.73 is the best we can get for liquid money. And then every time I do another certificate of deposit, the rate's just a little bit higher. So I'm just gonna continue to turn that money over and keep investing it or just putting it in that Max Saver account because that's earning a really good interest right now. But I was just surprised that we'll end the year. I think I estimated 20,000, we'll have probably over $40,000. So I think that's great. I do though, do the special education billings to other school districts for the students that we educate from other school districts. And my billings this year, we've been funded for those, we got funded for those in February and March, and that's where they take the money from other districts and they put that money towards us. And that, we billed 6 different school districts for 20 students and received $196,000. So when Mario and I have been out talking about the levy and stuff, this is a question that usually comes up is, the open enrollment students. So we were talking about this last night about how we don't recover what we spend on our own students like we do what we spend on the open enrollment students. And so kind of going into, because Steve is new, when I do my reports, I'll go into a little more detail with you, so he understands what we're talking about.
Well, I think for the audience anyway also.
Yeah. We don't really have anything else to report on for March. We got a YSEE Bulldog Radio grant. Elizabeth Luce-Warren did, and that is for $2,600. And then we have our typical Charlotte Drake Youth Philanthropy grants. One was for outdoor ping pong for $300, and the Gay Straight Alliance Dance for $275. And I don't know if Mr. Haggard knows anything about the Bulldog Radio, if you wanted to comment on that, or if you don't, that's fine. I usually give a forewarning that we're going to talk about that, but I didn't have a chance to do that with you.
They're in the process of purchasing equipment. I mean, that's about as much as I know right now.
Elizabeth's purchasing equipment. The kids have picked out some of the best equipment for starting a radio. They have a program that they're going to be using. They're putting together shows. They're asking for shows from classes throughout the school. There are some really funny shows that are coming down the line. So in addition to youth radio, or to the YS radio, they'll also end up on Channel 5, hopefully. And,
And I guess one more thing is I do have the amounts and rates on the agenda for approval. These are the ones that come from the county auditor. And this just comes straight from them of what they're projected to collect for this calendar year for 2018.
So that's 2018, though we're here in April.
Yes.
Right, okay.
But that is yeah. It's kind of confusing because that's the rates we're at right now, even though these are supposed to be generated from the tax budget that I turn in January, then we have tax budget hearing, we talk about it. That's actually for the fiscal year that will start in 2019, but those rates are not going to be what they are in 2019. This is what they're at now. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, thank you. That's pretty amazing. That's a light gesture you picked up on.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I just wanted to say that there was an extra $20,000 that was donated to the Community Foundation, I think in a donor advised fund. That's a anonymous donor advised fund, which is something they added, I think, very recently at the Community Foundation. And that some of those extra mics that were purchased, and they've done a lot of work with it, it was specifically the donor wanted to give it, they wanted to see it go to performance and theater and performing arts. And so the theater immediately purchased some things for the show that made a huge difference. I think the second weekend, you went and saw it the first night, and then you went the second weekend, you saw a really significant difference between the production. And I think they spent less than 10 already, and then they have a whole another 10,000 that we can spend going forward. But really, it's an anonymous donor, so whoever that is, thank you. But we really appreciate it. So, through the Community Foundation.
All right, anybody have any questions for Dawn or anything? Okay, we're going to 3.2, right?
Yes.
Acceptance of amounts and rates. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Roll call.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I Aida?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to superintendent's report and updates.
Okay, so while folks were in Peru on spring break, myself and 5 other teachers within our schools were able to take an amazing trip out to Deeper Learning Conference 2018 in San Diego, California, and it was an amazing experience on the High Tech High Campus, and it's probably known as I think the #1 conference for the kind of work we're doing, progressive education in the country, maybe even in the world. I was in a group at one point working on a design thinking project, and there were 5 people in our group, and all 5 people in my group were from 5 different countries. And it was really cool experience to sit and have that kind of
Global connection.
kind of global connection for the work we're doing as educators, and it was really, really cool. But the best part about this trip is it was completely funded. We're going to completely fund it from the dollars from the DLTC, Dipper Learning Training Center, and people coming to visit Yellow Springs schools. And so now we're charging $100. People come visit every time they come. And lots of people are coming to see what's going on in our schools, and they're paying money to see the kinds of great things our teachers are doing with kids. And so we're taking that money, we reinvested it in our teachers, and sent them to this conference. So none of those dollars are coming out of the taxpayers' funds from the local community. It's all coming out of dollars specifically from when people visit. That's a powerful thing, and I think it's nice that we're able to do that now as a result of the work our teachers have done over the years. Great experience. All 4 or 5 teachers, all 5 teachers that went, we all got a nickname in the end. We got these great little bracelets that we're still wearing. My nickname's Max Jr. You don't want to know. It's just kind of came up. We all got our nicknames on our bracelets. Had a good time. It was a lot of bonding. We had a great time learning together. We all were. It was one of the things that the teachers said when they left is that they loved it, but one of the downsides of it was a lot of the work was around PBL, not all of it. But we couldn't, it was like a kind of a situation where we were there trying to learn about, the work, but in many ways we were doing more teaching than we were learning. And that is good and bad, It's good because we're doing well. It's bad because we didn't learn as much as we would like to have learned about that particular part of what we do. But there's a lot of really great activities that we learned that we're going to try to use in the classroom now and use in my work as superintendent as well. And it's going to be really cool to adopt some of that. So that was great.
Who were the teachers, please?
So Maggie Davis, Sada Amin, Peg Morgan, Lori Sparrow-Knapp, and Jamie Adolph. So it's a really great group of individuals. We had a really great time, and it was. Can we shut that? Yeah, we can shut that down. There's something going on out there. Okay.
Engine revving.
There's some engine revving. Any questions about that before I move on to the next? Okay. So just a quick update on our levy and our facilities work. So we have a levy coming up here, May 8th, and actually you can vote now. So I tell the community, go out and vote now. You can vote early. I was planning on voting early a couple days ago. I didn't make it, but I'm hoping to do it sometime, maybe tomorrow or next week, and try to vote early, because on election day, if you wait till election day, the problem with waiting till election day is anything can come up, an emergency, you name it. You just don't want to have to rely on that and then end up not showing up to the voting booth. This is too important of an election to not go out and vote, and so I want to encourage everyone to do that as soon as possible. Next Friday, April 20th, we have rescheduled our bus tour, so we're going to do a school bus tour. Sign up by calling the Board of Education office. If you're a community member in Yellow Springs and you want to check it out, we would love for you to sign up and call the office, talk to Sharon, she'll get you on the list. It's a free trip. You just show up at 12 in front of Mills Lawn, get on the bus, bring a sack lunch if you want. If you've already eaten, that's fine. We're going to go out to Bethel High School and check out some of the great work that happened there. And then we're going to scoot on over to Northwest State and Library. There are elements in both of those spaces that cover a lot of the work that we're actually thinking about doing. I'd love to get some feedback from the community about those elements and what people think going forward, and that'll be really helpful for us. And it'll be a good chance for people to see in action what some of the ideas we have look like in a real school with real kids running around in the building doing it. So you'll have a chance to see what happens and how distracted the kids really aren't from glass walls, you know, and see for yourself, face to face, what actually is happening when that happens, and get a great experience of it. So that'll be fun. Please sign up. I don't know where our list is right now, but hopefully we can get the word out. I appreciate the news, putting an ad in the paper this week for it. Thanks for doing that. I think that made a difference. It's going to make a difference for us. And second thing, kind of an update, is we have a newsletter coming out. It probably will drop in mailboxes on Saturday, I think, or maybe tomorrow. But basically, it's a newsletter that's going to have, it's a typical district newsletter, except this one's kind of cool because we included some 3D renderings for the new facility and what it could look like. And so you'll have a chance to see, not just from a two-dimensional top-down view, which is what we've seen so far in terms of floor plan and site plan, but you'll actually see a 3D image of what the building design looks like right now. And so I think that's really important for the community. You'll see that, and there'll be some last-second information there, you know, in preparation for the levy. The last thing, any questions about that before we, okay. Comments? Okay. The last thing is just an update on the Yellow Springs High School, McKinney Middle School personnel change. So we haven't had a chance to talk about this in a board meeting. There's been several letters that have gone out to the community around this. In March, you know, we became aware of a situation that required an immediate investigation by myself and by the school district, as well as the police. And so there has been an investigation, and the investigation is still going on right now as we speak. I want to say that our kids are safe, that any parents, any students involved in anything that's happened have been contacted, and were contacted immediately within the day that we were aware of it. And so we think that's super important to make sure our kids are safe. And we've done everything we can do to protect our kids and make sure they're safe within our schools. And I just want to assure the community of that. And we can't talk publicly as a school district because of FERPA and other laws guiding and telling us what we can and can't share. And frankly, it would be inappropriate to share student names, we think, publicly as well. But we can't share those things, and we're not going to. But what we will tell you is that our kids are safe, and that school is functioning fine. I also want to say that we've been really proud of our kids in all of this, our high school students, because in an era and a time where there's a lot of negative comments and in the public eye about this situation, our kids have been the most mature members of our community with this work, by far. And so we are so proud of our students and how they've handled this. You know, we appreciate what they've done around this work. I also want to say that Dr. Pryor is on leave, and while he's on leave, Jack Haddard has been appointed interim principal, and tonight the board will officially vote him into that position. But he's been put in that position, obviously, since Tim was on leave. And Jack's done a terrific job. John Gudgel came over from the elementary school and is now spending a half day in Jack's old role as the assistant principal. And those two moves, I think, have a real calming and positive influence. And I have to tell you, and it's important for folks to know this in the community too, our school has not skipped a beat since Jack stepped into that role and since John came over. It's functioning well. Our kids are doing great. Everything's functioning great, and our kids are learning. And so I feel really good about how things are going at our high school with our students, and I want the community to be assured that that things are going well in our school with our kids, and we are taking care of them and supporting them in all ways we can. So, any other comments or thoughts from the board?
Any other staffing move
Excuse me?
in that line of things? Isn't?
Oh, the other staff, yeah. So Lori Sparrow Knapp, also then when Jack moved from assistant principal to full-time, from half-time assistant principal to full-time principal, it opened up his half-time role as a PBL Foundations teacher. And so Lori Sparrow Knapp stepped in from a half-time theater arts teacher in our school to now be a full-time teacher, where she's spending the other half of her day in his role as PBL Foundation. So that's the other change that was made. And then with John coming over here, we had to add some time here at the elementary school for Amanda Kinney to sub and do some work as well, and so she's doing that too. So there's been a lot of personnel moves we've had to make as a result of this going on. But again, I want to assure the community that as soon as we became aware of the situation and what was going on, we dealt with it immediately. Mr. Hatter and I have been in constant communication, working together on this. Ms. First is involved in constant communication and working on this as well. And Mr. Hausch has taken over all of the evaluations at the high school on top of his evaluations here at the elementary. And so he's done an incredible job stepping up and doing that work as well. So we've all come together and have, I think, engaged in about as seamless a transition as you can, given everything that's gone on. So we appreciate the support from our community, and again, we're doing everything we can to support our kids right now. All right.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everybody stepping in and flexibility and adaptability and support, ongoing support, and really helping students and families in the district sort of continuing to move on. And I think it speaks to kids' resilience and to their empathy, which sort of is the kind of a theme here, that with the Peru trip, with the art exhibit, and with what's happening. So kudos to everybody. And there's been obviously so much moving about all of this here tonight, but I know this has been ongoing, and appreciate what everybody's doing.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving into the administrative portion of the consent calendar, 4.2 through 4.4. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, this is all pretty
Yep.
self-explanatory and the typical stuff, right? Oh, here are those
Yeah,
donations.
I guess I would just want to call out that 4.3 to say thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
those donations, yep, absolutely. Okay. Nobody have anything? All right, roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Aida,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Moving into the personnel portion of the consent calendar, 4.5 through 4.9.
Yeah, which is 4.9 is a biggie.
Yeah,
Goes on for pages.
Yeah, but that's the usual,
Yep,
and
that's
then
the- exactly.
co-curricular contracts and stuff. All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, anything to,
Yeah, I want to point out Jeff Collins on the list here. He is resigning effective end of school year. He got a great position for himself at Wittenberg University, and he's going to be leading some major work around teachers and I think the sciences, and I'm not sure exactly. I thought it was maybe student teaching as well. Do you know? Well, you know the details.
He's going to be teaching a teachers or educational psychology class, and then he's overseeing their College of Ed, the credentialing, to make sure that they don't lose their licensure. And then he also will look at each kid in the College of Ed's transcripts to make sure that they've taken the classes necessary, so when they graduate they are licensed. So those are his three major responsibilities there.
So we want to thank Jeff for everything he's done in our schools. I think he's been here 5-6 years maybe at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we greatly appreciate what he's done, and 7 years, and all of his contributions to our kids and our schools and our faculty. He's been a great colleague to work with, and we wish him the best. And so we are also looking for now a middle school math teacher. So if you know of one that wants to come to Yellow Springs, or you are one, please let us know ASAP so we can consider you for interview.
all right, anything? Okay.
You, Steve,
Yes.
Aida,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Sylvia,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we are now into board communications, Green County Career Center report.
So, you may or may not have, I hope you have, noticed that the Career Center has gotten a tremendous amount of good press recently, both in the Dayton Daily News and also on some local TV for various of the programs that are going on over there. I don't think that's unrelated to the fact that our application numbers for the next cycle for, so these would be sophomores now moving into junior year, are as high as they've been probably in 10 or 15 years. So that's going really, really well. So we're pretty pleased with how things are going there. More locally, you may or may not know that about 2 weeks ago, maybe, the kindergartners from Mills Lawn paid a visit to the Career Center,
Oh, that's so
where
cool.
the students there set them up with hands-on activities, and then the students in the culinary arts class gave them ice cream afterwards. It was apparently a totally disruptive day, because the kids over at the Career Center were sort of, up against the glass. So work came to an end as our kindergartners were. Kindergartners had a blast, big kids had a blast. It was a great event, so.
Awesome. That's very good. Okay, any other board member items? Anybody? All right, well, I just want to encourage people to attend the Mind Matters, the mental health gallery presentation at K-12 Gallery downtown Dayton. But I also want to say that if you can't make it there, it will be a part of exhibition night, which I do want to sort of begin to talk about so that people can put those on their calendars. If people know what those are, that would be great to put out.
May 16th for the high school,
May 9th for the elementary.
May 9th for the elementary.
Great, so put those on your calendars. Again, I just want to stress empathy. That was so much part of that exhibit downtown, was that the kids were driving this because they wanted to have more understanding and empathy towards people that impacted them in their lives. And it was a real tearjerker too. So I just want to encourage people to attend that. Our fourth grade kids did a presentation in the First Village Council sort of housing conversation. And I believe Sean attended that one, yes? And
yeah, they did a great job. They kicked it off and shared the PBL project they did around affordable housing and the research they did, and really kind of set the stage for the discussion that came next. So it was pretty powerful.
And it was really well attended.
Yeah.
I believe.
Like 50 people there, I think.
Yeah. So Steve McQueen and I were there on Monday or Tuesday? Monday night.
I only got to hear the presentation, though, I don't know the meeting.
Yeah. So, and the last one is coming up on the 21st, and that's at the Bryan Center at 2 in the afternoon, and I just want to encourage community members to attend that. It was very interesting to be part of that conversation. If you don't want to get through 400 pages of the survey, it's a nice condensed version, and it really helps sort of understand what the council is hoping, is looking at and hoping to gain from those community conversations. I couldn't help but think it was sort of was their version of engaging the community, like our engagement process around the buildings. And again, I just want to thank, there have been several community members who have opened their homes to having conversations about the proposed levy that's out there, and Dawn and Mario have been invited to speak, and I just want to give a shout out to those folks who are welcoming in community members into their homes. So that's all from me. All right, anything else? All right.
Wow.
I think we are moving towards adjournment, huh?
It's not a record yet, but I mean, we're close.
I guess I just want to clarify, is there an executive session that's continuing or not?
No.
Okay, great. All right, so is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. All right, roll call.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Massachusetts.